Story recap here. Today I'm going to explain a horror and thriller film called 247 Degrees Fahrenheit, which is based on true events. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. After having dinner with their families, Jenna and her boyfriend Jamie get into a car accident on their way home. Unfortunately, Jamie dies, and all Jenna can do is scream. 3 years later, Jenna's best friend, Renee, invites her to a party at a lakeside cabin. They will be joined by Renee's boyfriend Michael and his friend Ian. Before leaving, Renee introduces Jenna to Ian, whose uncle owns the cabin. They then take a speedboat, where Renee scolds Michael for being silly. Moments later, they finally reach the cabin. Ian immediately shows interest in Jenna, but Michael thinks she'll be too much for him to handle. After that, Ian tells his friends that his uncle, Wade, usually rents out his cabin every year, but he's decided to let them stay there during May Day. He also informs Jenna they have tickets for the big party that night, hoping they will all have fun. The girls eventually meet Wade and are greeted by his dog, Bo. Wade has prepared welcome shots for everyone, but Jenna refuses to drink and goes inside the cabin to look for her stuff. There, Jenna gets her medication from her bag and contemplates taking some pills, but she decides against it. Outside, Wade says he'll return later before going home. Jenna then joins her friends in the living room, where Ian tells them which bedrooms they can take. Michael and Renee go upstairs, and knowing what they'll do, Ian decides to play some music. He also tells Jenna to watch him make dinner, but the girl says she'll help him. Later, while having dinner, Jenna asks Ian why he's taken an English degree, so Ian explains he's always been fascinated with literature, and even adds he was a physics major. At the same time, Ian says he wants to be a writer. Afterward, Jenna goes outside to play with Bo. She then sees Michael take a blunt from Wade, but she doesn't tell Renee about it when her friend joins her. Renee asks Jenna if she's having fun, knowing the girl is still trying to cope with what happened to her, but Jenna assures her she's okay. Seconds later, Wade reminds them to bring a camera to the party and their invitations. He also says he'll attend the party, but they might not see each other, adding that he has to set some things up before finally leaving with Bo. Jenna and Renee soon head inside, where Michael mentions the sauna he found. The guys want to relax and immediately go there, but Renee notices that Jenna looks uncomfortable and tells her she doesn't have to join them. Despite that, Jenna says it's okay and goes upstairs to get changed. In her room, Jenna removes her ring and hides it with her pills. It isn't long before she goes downstairs and takes 2 bottles of water, but she hesitates to join her friends in the sauna. Then, Ian sees her and invites her inside, and Michael makes sure to close the door. Jenna gives Renee one of the water bottles, but as she sits, it's obvious that she's not at ease. So to distract herself, she asks Ian if Wade had built the sauna. Ian replies that Wade redid the whole place, and the sauna is his latest installment. Moments later, Renee can't help but notice how hot it is inside the sauna. Ian says it's 184 degrees, leaving the others in disbelief. Then, Ian pours water on the rocks to create steam, making the room hotter. Eventually, they agree to swim in the lake. However, they just go back inside the sauna since it's too cold. The guys have some meat in the kitchen first while the girls relax in the sauna, and Ian admits he likes Jenna. Again, Michael warns Ian about Jenna, saying she's a load. Soon, Michael gets drunk, and he only chuckles when he trips before going inside the sauna. After a while, the group jumps into the lake again, but they quickly return inside because it's freezing. Ian suggests going back to the sauna for the last time, bringing a small bottle of herbal aroma that he mixes with the water. At the same time, an intoxicated Michael starts annoying his girlfriend. He asks Renee to come upstairs with him, but when she refuses, he leaves to go to the bathroom. Inside the sauna, Renee can't help but get mad because Michael is drunk again. Renee reveals she's tired of taking care of Michael all the time, adding that he's changed. So Ian tries to explain why Michael is like that, but Renee only gets angrier and says she's sick of taking care of everyone. As if on cue, they hear a noise outside, and Renee quickly assumes that Michael is stumbling around. Renee shouts and tells Michael she's not babysitting him all night, and she also stops Ian from checking on her boyfriend. Exasperated, Renee decides to go upstairs, but she struggles to open the door. Ian tries opening it himself and fails, confused since it's not even locked. Naturally, Jenna starts to panic, getting mad at Renee when she asks her to stop. She then tells Renee she doesn't know what it feels like to be trapped for so long, also admitting that she didn't take her pills earlier because she's trying not to rely on them. With no other choice, Ian attempts to force the door open. Unfortunately, it won't budge, and Renee thinks Michael locked them in there as a joke. At the same time, it gets hotter inside the sauna, so Ian says they should relax and wait for Michael to let them out. Renee is worried that Michael will forget about them, and as if that isn't enough, Jenna points out he's probably high from the blunt Wade gave him. Jenna likes to think that Wade will come back and help them, but Ian says he won't return since he knows he'll be at the party. Despite that, Ian tries to remain optimistic and figure out a way to open the door. Sadly, Ian and Renee soon discover that something is blocking it. Moments later, Renee suggests breaking the window, but Ian refuses. Renee thinks they will suffocate, so Ian says they have plenty of air and as it's the heat they have to worry about. To make things worse, Ian can't turn off the heat because the controls are outside. Meanwhile, Jenna notices something behind the thermometer. Ian says it's the thermostat, but there's no control on it. Ian also adds that the sauna works by setting the temperature outside to make the heater run, and when it gets to that temperature, the heater turns off. The thermostat is the device that tells a heater to turn off, so Ian doesn't want to mess with it. However, it's already too late, for the gas suddenly turns on. Desperate, Ian uses the wooden ladle to take a hot rock, placing it in a bucket of water to let it cool off. Then, he uses it to break the window, and although he succeeds, he ends up cutting his hand. The three of them take turns standing near the window so they can breathe, calling out to Michael and hoping he'll soon let them out. Later on, Ian tells the girls there's a ladder that seems to be wedged between the door and the elevated floor, adding that it must have fallen. Renee thinks Michael knocked it over, but Ian wants to give the guys some credit. Then, Ian ties a towel around a rock and says the heater will turn back on. They had the temperature set to 185 degrees earlier, but since the window was broken, the sauna will never reach that temperature. Carefully, Ian uses the towel to lower down the rock outside the door and lift the ladder, only to fail. So Renee says they should just break the thermostat to turn off the heat, but Ian stops her since the temperature might reach 250 degrees. Ian then tends to his wound as the girls argue about what they should do, but he soon notices the light and says he thinks he can short out one of them. Ian wants to blow the fuse of one light, hoping it's tied to the heater controls. He then removes the bulb, and using a wet towel and the ladle, he jams the socket and tries to blow the fuse out. Unfortunately, Ian gets electrocuted. His plan fails, and they're now left in the dark. Concurrently, Wade lets Bo play as he handles the fireworks for the festival with his friend. Back inside the sauna, the trio continues to get weak. With nothing else to do, Jenna starts talking to Renee about their trip to Myrtle Beach when they were younger, saying they used to have so much fun. Then, Renee says that things and people change, pointing out how hard she tried reaching out to her when Jamie died. As the girls talk, Ian tells them to keep quiet because he thinks he heard Bo. Sure enough, the dog is outside, barking and trying to follow their voices. Ian is already throwing up blood, but all they can do is cry and scream for help. At that moment, Michael shows up and notices Bo. He wonders why the dog is barking, but he fails to hear Renee and his friends shouting inside the sauna because of the fireworks. Then, he realizes it's time for the party and leaves while Bo returns to his master. Just like Michael, Wade wonders why his dog keeps barking. Sadly, Wade isn't sure what's gotten into Bo, but the dog suddenly jumps out of the vehicle as they're about to go home. Bo tries to lead Wade back to the sauna, but Ian's uncle gets distracted when he sees Michael. Michael thinks Renee and the others left him passed out on the couch to go to the party, adding that he only woke up when he heard Bo barking. Wade asks Michael if he's going to the party, but he says it's not his thing. However, the truth is, he already went there to look for Renee and his friends, but the guards didn't let him in because he didn't have an invitation. Feeling bad, Wade invites Michael to hang out with him at his house, and Michael gladly accepts. Inside the sauna, the trio eventually runs out of water. Desperate, Renee gets ready to break the thermostat with a rock, but Jenna stops her. Then, Jenna accidentally hits Renee in the head with a rock as they struggle, rendering her unconscious. So Ian moves Renee away from the heater, assuring Jenna that her friend will be fine. Still, Jenna cries and explains she's only trying to stop Renee from destroying the thermostat. She thinks they'll die if it breaks because Ian made it seem like it was the most important thing. But when she sees that Ian isn't so sure anymore, she breaks it herself. Unfortunately, because of what Jenna did, the heater suddenly turns on. Meanwhile, Michael finally decides to return to the cabin after smoking with Wade. As the room gets hotter, Ian becomes more hopeless and hysterical. He then tries to break the steamer and heater and ends up burning his body, leaving Jenna horrified. Sad to say, the steamer and heater blow up just as Jenna manages to open the door. Seeing Ian's lifeless body, Jenna goes outside and quickly drinks water. Then, she heads to a room to take her medication, only to realize she's just hallucinating. Jenna is still inside the sauna, but Ian is already dead. At the same time, Renee regains consciousness, so Jenna tries to help her. However, Jenna realizes there's a gas leak, which makes it even harder for them to breathe. Despite feeling weak, Jenna takes Renee to the window to help her breathe, unaware that Michael has returned. As Michael takes a bottle of beer from the refrigerator, Jenna ties 2 towels together and hangs them from the beam. She intends to use the towels to keep Renee standing, but the girl is too heavy for her. So, with what little strength she has left, Jenna lifts Renee and puts her arms through the towels to prevent her from collapsing. Concurrently, a clueless Michael smokes in the living room. Back inside the sauna, Jenna covers her hand with a towel and removes the rocks from the steamer. Then, she finally finds the leak and quickly covers it before losing consciousness. At the same time, Michael falls asleep on the couch, still thinking that Renee, Jenna, and Ian left him to go to the party. In a flashback, it is revealed that Michael tripped earlier and accidentally knocked over some things. Unfortunately, he was so drunk that he didn't even properly clean his mess. Michael just left a small ladder there, set against the door. The ladder then fell when Renee tried to go out, getting stuck between the door and the elevated floor. Later on, Wade returns and sees Renee in the sauna through the window. He immediately calls the cops and paramedics, and Michael can only cry as he realizes he made a mistake. Meanwhile, in the ambulance, Renee reaches out to hold Jenna's hand.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.